Thank you, Grady. All right, for more on this, let's bring in Fox News contributor and opinion editor for the Washington Times, Charlie Hurt, along with Maslansky and Partners president and partner Lee Carter. Both of you, welcome on this Super Tuesday to The Bottom Line. Lee, I want to come to you first. So,
great to see you.
We look last week in Michigan. Joe Biden had 100,000 votes where Democrats voted uncommitted. What should we watch for tonight as the results come in? Can we see anything about what's going to happen in November by what we see tonight?
You know, I think we want to see voter enthusiasm tonight. So you want to see a lot of people coming out on the Republican side. I don't think you're going to see that on the Democratic side. But I think to see how enthusiastic people are about voting for Donald Trump is going to help us see what kind of turnout he's going to have. And when he has turnout, that's when he exceeds all expectations. And his enthusiasm so far has been really, really great. We've seen 82% of people who are voting for Donald Trump are excited to do so. There's a whole host of reasons why people think that Donald Trump is the right candidate. He performs better on the economy, immigration, foreign policy, crime, taxes, inflation, China, and Israel. All of those issues are in his favor. So I think it's going to be really interesting to look at the exit polls to see why people are voting. I think it's also going to be really interesting to see how important immigration is. We've seen that that's risen to be the #1 issue to voters, no matter what, if they're in a border state or not. I think it's going to be interesting to see how important that is, because if that continues to rise, that's going to be another area of edge for Donald Trump.
And one issue is immigration, of course, Charlie. And in your adjacent county where you're sitting right now in Bedford County, the sheriff there just arrested an illegal from Mexico who's wanted for abducting a 15-year-old juvenile from Ohio. So that's happening across this country. What are you watching tonight?
Well, I think it'll be kind of interesting because obviously, I think that Donald Trump is going to walk away with this today. Probably his best shot at, or Nikki Haley's best shot at trying to pick off an upset would be in a place like our old home state of Virginia, where Donald Trump has never done particularly well here. And you have a lot of Democrats who are switching over to vote to play in the Republican nomination just to sort of, express their displeasure with Donald Trump, but whatever. As you point out, whether it's the economy or immigration, and by the way, I think the two are closely entwined in a lot of ways. The issue of illegal immigration also has the added strain of all the crimes that people are enduring around the country, whether you're in a border state or not, that are the result of people that Joe Biden willingly let into this country without vetting. But either whether it's the economy or illegal immigration, I think that Donald Trump, Republicans could not ask for a better candidate to fight on the issue of illegal immigration. He invented the issue basically in Washington. Both parties had ignored it for decades, terrified of touching it. So he forced Republicans into taking up the issue, and Democrats are still fighting him on it, which is kind of ridiculous. And then of course his marks on the economy. He beats Biden on the economy as well. So yeah. I think Trump is in a very good position going forward, and I think he's going to probably clean up today.
So Lee, I guess we now know what those dark aviators are really for, because Joe Biden, he's tanking in the polls, and everyone sees it except Joe Biden himself. Watch this.
So, President, what's your message to Democrats who are concerned about your poll numbers?
My poll numbers, the last 5 polls you guys don't report, I'm winning 5 in a row. You guys only look at the New York Times. They're a great paper.
So, Lee, you're a pollster. I guess I haven't seen these 5 polls he's referring to. Have you seen the polls where Joe Biden is up? Or if you look at the averages, Donald Trump is still beating Joe Biden?
I'm puzzled at what polls. I mean, maybe they're showing him some numbers that they're not showing everybody else. I'm not exactly sure exactly what he's referring to, but they say the stages of grief include denial, and I think that's where he's living, because Donald Trump is ahead in the polls, not just nationwide, but in those 7 states that matter the most. And some of the polling that I think is absolutely the worst that I've seen for Joe Biden came out of the New York Times poll, where they said only 18% of Americans say that Joe Biden's policies have helped them. Only 18%, while 40% of Americans say that Donald Trump's did. That's a huge difference. And if you look at the key demographics across the board, there are very few people, less than 20% across key demographics, say Joe Biden's policies have helped them. He says things have never been better. He says he's not getting credit for the things that he's done. He says he's the only man for the job because he's the one that started all these great policies. Well, the people aren't feeling it. And I don't blame them for denying the polls because they're bad news for him.
He doesn't just deny them. They believe that they're wrong. And despite the media's years-long vendetta against former President Donald Trump, old Joe doesn't think they've gone far enough, whining to the New Yorker. By the way, that New Yorker piece was almost 14,000 words. He whined that the press had failed to accurately report on the threat that Trump poses to our democracy. It's like you've all become numbed by it, Charlie. 13,740 words they spilled on that old coot.
Yeah, because everybody knows that the press is in bed with Donald Trump. I mean, from the beginning, the press has been trying to rig the whole thing to get Donald Trump elected. It is so ludicrous. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the fact that Joe Biden wears aviator glasses because, and we don't talk about this enough, but never, I think the only president in our history who has ever worn dark sunglasses was John F. Kennedy. And I think that the picture was of him sailing and he was wearing dark glasses. There's a reason no president wears dark glasses. Because dark glasses signify deceit and dishonesty, and you're concealing something. Joe Biden not only wears them, he wears them all the time because he is always lying. He's lying to the press, he's lying to the people. And not only that, even though anybody could look at this and say, this is a really weird statement to be making for a president to be wearing glasses, he doesn't care. He doesn't care that everybody knows he's lying about things, and he lies to the press. And this is just another example. The idea that the press is in the bed with Donald Trump is not just a lie. It's also a sign of profound delusion on his part.
I campaigned back in Wisconsin for Congress, and really bright days in the summer in Wisconsin, I'd wear sunglasses, and my team would be like, take those off. To your point, Charlie, it signifies deceit. You never wear sunglasses. You're right.
In that article, Mike Donnellan said the biggest images in people's minds in November will be January the 6th.
Yeah.
So they're lying to themselves.
Well, you guys, we have to go shortly. I want to get to this, though. Charlie, let me quickly move to this because Donald Trump, he's back on the ballot in Colorado, but House Democrats, they're not happy about it. They're pledging to do everything in their power to work around the Supreme Court's decision. Watch this.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
But House Speaker Mike Johnson has had it with the Democrats' continued effort to thwart the democratic process. His spokesperson saying in his statement that, quote, Democrats need to get a grip. In this country, the American people decide the next president, not the courts and not the Congress. And so, Lee, I look at this and go, if you thought that Donald Trump was weak, you would be begging to have Donald Trump be your opponent. But that's not what Democrats are doing. They're trying every effort they can to get him off the ballot, to make sure he doesn't get to November, because I think they're afraid of him.
Seems no doubt about it. I mean, the Republican messaging where they're talking about this as voter suppression is no question the way people are viewing it. It's absolutely not what people want. People want the voice of the American people to be heard. Certainly when you look at Republicans and independents, they look at this and they think it's ridiculous. Democrats seem desperate at this point to get Trump off the ballot at all costs, and it's going to continue to make Trump more and more popular. I really think this is going to backfire on the Democrats.
Final word real quick, Charlie.
No, I think it's fantastic. I hope the Democrats spend all their time doing this, and it just underscores the fact that they have no answers, no ideas, no solutions for any of the issues that Americans actually care about.
But Joe Biden told the New Yorker he's running again because of all the great things that he's done for America. He just
Nobody
wants
can feel
to
them.
keep the ball rolling. Thank you, Charlie Hart, Lee Carter.
God bless them.
Thank you both.
They're so
Bless his
precious.
heart.